Welcome to Helping Hands. This is the program where we recognise the people and organisations who make the world a better place. Coming up today,
the next step from this is contacting the real estates.
Empowering young people with life skills.
In this country, we're taught that we celebrate, we commiserate, and everything in between with a glass in our hands.
The social pressures to drink. And we invite you to connect at helpinghands.tv. Every year, Wesley Mission work with hundreds of young people in foster care and young adults looking to make their way. Take Charge of Your Life is one program that exists to provide ongoing support to young Australians who do not have a family network to fall back on in their formative years.
The name of my role is Future Planning Consultant. My role entails providing support to those children who are ageing out of the foster care system. That could potentially be looking at, moving out and making sure that all the appropriate supports are in place. Future planning and just ensuring that they have all the help and support that they need to live independently. Every day is different. One day I could be assisting a young person with appointments, taking them to appointments, or another day could look like me dealing with a young person who is potentially on the verge of becoming homeless.
Wesley Take Charge of Your Life is a program that supports young people as they're transitioning out of foster care. It runs through all of Sydney and up to Ballina. So wherever we have an out-of-home care office, wherever our foster care teams are based, Wesley Take Charge of Your Life works with them all the way up the coast. We work with between 200 and 250 young people at any one time. All of our young people come from our foster care teams, so they're already Wesley clients. They're already children in foster care with Wesley, and we come in partnership with the case managers to work with them in order to make sure that the young people have the best experience they can have. It was identified a few years ago, back in 2017, that the outcomes for young people in foster care across New South Wales, not just Wesley, but across all agencies, the outcomes weren't great. So we had educational outcomes, employment outcomes were significantly lower than the general community. And when Wesley looked at those numbers, we just decided we could do better. And so this program sort of evolved from there. Some of the areas that we work with young people in foster care is things like their general living skills, so the cooking, the cleaning, how to use a dishwasher, how to use the washing machine, those practical things.
Let's make some spag bol, hey?
Sounds good.
So you've already started chopping the onion. Great, good stuff. Can I get you to peel it for me, please? Chop it up. So right now I'm teaching how to make a very nutritious spaghetti bolognese. The purpose of teaching this is so that when she is ready to move out, she has the skills to be able to cook really nutritious food. Some kids unfortunately miss out on the opportunity to be able to learn how to cook healthy, nutritious meals because, in some circumstances they may, their carers or their birth family will only purchase things that fit within their budget. So that could be like cheap processed meals, like takeout and that sort of thing. Good job. All right, I'll get you to pop the onion in there for me, please. And then we will chop some of the mushrooms up. So some of the meals that we would teach the young people to cook could be like spaghetti bolognese, shepherd's pie, stir fries. We would suggest those meals to the young people because they're full of nutrition and they're easy to cook. Some of the young people really get into it, in terms of teaching them how to cook. Some of them need a little bit of encouragement, but they generally love to cook because they get to see the end product and they get to be proud of what they've done. It boosts their confidence and self-esteem knowing that they're able to do things like cooking on their own. It also gives the encouragement and the joy of being able to show something that they've made.
Oh, yum, that smells so good. What are you girls doing?
Oh, we're making spaghetti bolognese.
Oh, yum. Hope there's some left over and we can share it for lunch.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Excellent. Cooking is such an important daily skill for everyone to have, and for young people when they're first moving out of home, just learning those foundational meals is just such an important way to help with healthy living, healthy lifestyle, making sure that, like Jen would have made sure it's a balanced meal. Also then looking at budgeting and how much that would cost versus getting takeaway or going out, and just making sure that young people are able to manage their money, look at ways for their lifestyle, so that, for example, freezing some of that and making sure you've got some, if you get home tired, you can just defrost it and cook some pasta and throw the sauce on top so you don't have to cook from scratch all the time. So just looking at all those different ways that cooking is just an important part of everyday life. We use a Skills for Life book that young people work through with their future planning consultant, and in that there's a number of different areas that they work through, and they have that as a resource to take away. And then of course, you know, these days there's so many good websites with good recipes and easy, cost-effective recipes to do, so we teach them where to look for this stuff as well, so that then they can have that independence. And then of course, they've always got Jenny as a backup, so staff will often get calls with, you know, how long do I cook the chicken for, and those sorts of things, to just make sure that they're doing all the things that they need, and we're just a phone call away if they need anything.
Don't go anywhere. There's more to come.
The next step from this is contacting the real estates and checking what time the appointments are, that you can go and view the property. So Claire, we've talked about where you want to live. Penrith was an ideal location. It's got all the facilities you need. It's close to uni. There's lots of public transport there because you don't drive. Do you think about that you may want a flatmate later down the track? But this is something that we do quite a lot with the older young people, so from 18 to 25, viewing properties, finding something that's suitable for them and affordable. If our young people are looking in the southwest Sydney area where Wesley housing is available, I'll try and go with them first to get them either a transitional property or it really depends on the client's needs. If you go into the filters, you can actually filter it to have a maximum price of $300. Just a single bedroom, so you can limit how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, if you need a garage, things like that in future when I know you've got your elders. We try and do a program with our young people called Rent It Keep It. Usually a tenancy is one of the first legal documents that young people will sign, so it's important for them to understand what that document means. So we've gone through that, what her responsibilities will be, and what happens, the consequences if you don't meet those responsibilities as well. So is there any of these that you would have a preference to go look at?
Probably like this one.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay, so that's good because it's in your price range.
Yep.
Do you know that area in Penrith? So hopefully that it means that Claire won't get herself into trouble, because you know the last thing that people need is a black mark on their name with tenancy, because it becomes very difficult to maintain a housing after that point. So the next step from this is contacting the real estates and checking what time the appointments are, that you can go and view the property. If you like the property, then we can move to the next step of putting in an application and going from there. Okay, Claire, are you ready to make that phone call?
Yeah.
Yep,
I think so.
Let's go.
Wesley Take Charge is very lucky in that we work in an organisation like Wesley where we have lots of different arms to the agency, and so it means that my future planners can work really closely with other teams like the community housing teams.
Hi Tristan, how are you going? Are you okay? All right, well let me make some phone calls. Don't stress and we'll chat soon. So that was one of my clients, Tristan. Unfortunately, he's just broken up with his partner. He really needs a house now because they're both living with his parents. What I'll do now is I'll look at our options within Wesley and without Wesley, without in the community housing. Hi Peter, how you going? You know how I was talking to you the other day about a possible client needing a house? Yep, he's good. Fortunately for us, that's been one of the benefits of Wesley Housing coming under the Dauma umbrella, is that they've been amazing at providing us opportunities to utilise some of their Wesley Housing properties. Early next week? Perfect. All right, I'll be in touch. Thanks. Each day is completely different for me, depending on what my client's needs. Quite often I'll come into the office and, expected to do some paperwork. Unfortunately, like today, there's been something thrown at me, so often dealing with curveballs. My favourite days are when I've been working with a client for a long time and they actually ring me up to give me some good news, because quite often it's, crisis-driven work we do. The other day I had a client ring me up and tell me that they got a job and it was their first day and they were excited. And I was the first person they wanted to call, so that was really good.
If you are a helping hand or would like to see a helping hand from your local community featured on this program, visit our website and be in touch. We'd love to hear about the people and organisations across Australia who are making the world a better place.
To find out more about Wesley Mission and take charge of your life, visit our website and click through to the Helping Hands directory. Welcome back to Helping Hands. This is where we recognise the people who make the world a better place. The panel joined Laura Bennett in the studio today to discuss the ongoing issue of alcohol and social pressures to drink.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. With us on the panel today we have Justine Whitchurch, sobriety writer and speaker. We've also got psychologist and teacher Colette Smart and the former CEO of Wesley Mission, Keith Garner. Thank you so much for being with us today. Justine, let's start with you. Why do you think there is so much social pressure to drink and who is affected by that?
Everybody within our culture, particularly in Australia, is affected by it. Why is it an issue? Because particularly in this country, we're taught that we celebrate, we commiserate, and everything in between with a glass in our hands. So I talk a lot about it being not just accepted, it's expected. So it has impacted how we socially interact. So it's very prominent.
And Keith, in your line of work, you've seen so many people affected by alcohol addiction. What are some of the signs that it is becoming a problem? That drinking is becoming a problem?
I mean, I say this often, and I do believe it, that it is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, social problem in Australia. But it's so unpopular to say that. You almost feel like you're making some bold statement against humanity if you say that.
We're trying to change that.
Yeah. And I think we've got a hard job on in doing that, really. But we do see it in family life breakdown, on the use of economics and the family life. We see it with people whose marriages break up and find it very difficult. And in point of fact, when I was working with the homeless, very often in our homeless work, people would come in and you would find it wouldn't be long before you were scraping through the issues and you would find that alcohol was a major issue. When they came into the centre, you would take all their details, name, address, next of kin, go through all this. But very often they didn't want to go back to where they came from because alcohol had been an enemy in that place. So it's everywhere in that place. And I think it destroys careers as well. I've seen people who's got their whole future in front of them, students at university and at college. Real issue.
And there's so many pressures on people, I think, whether it's financial pressures, family pressures that can maybe make us want to have a drink or two. Are those some of the things that lead to addiction, do you think, Colette, those pressures?
Yeah, they are. And there's also the whole socialisation around alcohol. But I just have to jump in here and just go, I love working with young people and they make some amazing decisions. And what we're actually seeing with young people in Australia is that young people are drinking less then their parents' generations and their grandparents' generation. And so our young people seem to be, they're not teetotalers, but they certainly are making healthier decisions around alcohol than our generations ever did. And we also know that there's this myth that parents have learned, was a myth, is that if you supply alcohol to your child or your teenager before they go to a party underage, you give them a little bit of alcohol because they're drinking safely or under your supervision. It's an utter myth. What they actually find is that those young people drink more when they go out. I mean, what do you think they're going to do? Sit in the corner and drink glasses of water while their friends are drinking? So they actually learn in the home what your attitude is around alcohol. Adults and parents are more aware of the effects of alcohol on the developing brain. And so we're seeing parents understand that more. And so the supply of alcohol to young people is going down in many areas. The only problem is those that do drink, binge drink at very high levels, and those are the ones those young people we worry about.
I reckon we've got to say something positively about the breweries and the providers of alcohol at this point. There is more choice for non-alcoholic drinks today than there ever has been, and I think that's a positive thing.
There's a massive shift there. And look, I think about my situation with alcoholism. Now, my children were, at the time that I actually went into rehab and I got sober, they were 10 and 7 almost. So prior to that, they knew that every day you came home, a parent came home and, you know, they didn't see the actual total consumption, but that you medicated or you drank when you came home from work because you'd had a big day, and that's how you dealt with life's challenges. That changed. So my children, in the bulk of their younger years, have seen that that's actually now not normal. So I've changed the narrative in my home that you come home from work and you don't medicate or wash away your day with alcohol.
Do you think it's easier these days then to say no to alcohol if you don't want it?
I don't know. I think that depends on the person. Yeah. Everybody's different. The social expectation's still the same across the board. It's horrendous. It's a bullying culture. I've written many stories about this and the Australian bullying culture around alcohol. Our younger generation have voices that maybe we didn't have, and they're a little bit more attuned with who they are already. Not always, but I think as a whole they're becoming a little bit stronger. I think they have other pressures, but it's our generation and the older generations that are still stuck in that mindset that to have a good time or to be part of something and that need to, once again, to belong, we have to be doing the same thing as everybody else. And if you're not drinking, you're not part of the norm.
For people who are, whether it's feeling the pressure to drink or maybe more even they have the potential to be addicted to alcohol, what advice do you give people in your line of work? Is it avoiding alcohol that's the best solution?
If you have been or are physically dependent on alcohol and it has been, you know, a full-blown dependency, then yeah, most definitely avoidance is probably the best way to go. I think everybody, any health professional would agree with that. But it goes back to what I said about it being, alcohol in particular, being a physically addictive drug. And the willpower, it's not always about choice. For those, there's a lot of research around grey area drinking, and it's a whole nother conversation, but you don't have to be in a park with a brown paper bag consuming alcohol to have a problem with alcohol. So avoidance for a lot of people, even in those situations where they're not necessarily physically dependent on alcohol, is probably the way to go, because the willpower goes out the door when the liquid goes in. So avoidance is probably the better way for a lot of people.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on that, and to everyone as well, thank you, and thank you for joining us.
If there's a topic that you'd like to see discussed on Helping Hands, visit our website and be in touch. We love talking about the things that make the world a better place.
What do you think of some of the points made by Keith, Colette and Justine? Do you agree that the social pressure to drink is an issue that needs to be addressed across our community? Visit our website to see the extended version of today's panel discussion and comment on our social media channels. We all have the social responsibility to support young people as they find their feet and make their way into adult life. In my role as a court chaplain, I see the negative effects of social influences like alcohol way too often. Sadly, the consequences of negative choices can hinder future directions. By recognising and removing some of the negative social influences that can be limiting, we can all help create an environment where young people are encouraged and enabled to make positive, lifelong choices.
Let us know about the Helping Hands in your local community at helpinghands.tv. Send a photo or a short video and tell us about your local heroes in 25 words or less.
Thanks for joining us today and being part of the Helping Hands family. Thanks also to Laura, the team at Take Charge of Your Life, and also to our panellists, Keith, Colette and Justine. Visit our website and follow us on social to stay up to date on all things Helping Hands. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week.